Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Um, Glad you're back. I'm actually going to be re-recording here. I ended up reading a bunch of lore and then realized I wasn't recording. So, apologize for that. Well, I'm just going to get right into it. I found some scrolls that were laying around the camp, and the camp and the scrolls are actually talk about the lore of the elves and what we believe. So I thought I would read some of this lore and explore the camp a little bit. Now I did explore and walk around the camp and I found these scrolls, so I'll be reading these scrolls here, and I hope you enjoy them. And I also noticed this collection of animals. I've already forgotten their name. I've already forgotten the names of these here beautiful, majestic beasts. Um, but maybe it's in the creatures. Halla. Yes, it's the Halla. So here are the Halla, the revered animals of the Dalish elves, and they even have their own god devoted to them. I don't know of the Halla god, but that is very interesting. I also noticed these Aravels that are built. They're basically like mobile homes. So these are the Aravels that are built by the elves, and they're almost like traveling homes. And yeah, so very interesting. So this is a lore play, so what that means is that I am very into the lore, I enjoy the lore, and I make sure that I read about all the lore that I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break open the book, and I'm going to start reading. So it's in Culture and History, and we found 3 scrolls: the City Elves, Arlathan Part 1, and Arlathan Part 2. So we're going to read these three different pieces of history and culture for the Dalish and see what is going on. So the Dalish are the elves out here in the forest that are out here on their own, you know, living tough lives, I suppose. Maybe it's not that tough for them because they're used to it, but they're out here living the rough life out in the forest and surviving. Meanwhile, there's the City Elves that live in the city, so let's find out more about the City Elves. Okay. It is hard to tell our children about those of our people who have decided to live in the Shimlan's cities. They ask, why would anyone want to be treated like that? And sometimes I do not know what to say. I do not understand it myself. They were freed, but they have returned to live in the service of their former masters. They are housed like animals in walled sections of the Shimlan cities. They do the meanest of tasks and are rewarded with nothing. Why? I do not know. This is a very interesting bit of lore. So they were actually freed, and they were freed as slaves, but they decide to live in the city anyway. Now it's interesting to me to understand why they were freed, you know, who decided to free them, and how that happened. But it's interesting that they decide to live in the cities anyway, and it's probably because once you get used to the luxury of city life, you don't want to leave that, you know? Once you get used to the conveniences of what city life has to offer, like, you know, running water and power. I was gonna say electricity, but I don't know if there's electricity in this game. But maybe some kind of magical version of electricity, just powering like lights and stuff like that. But when you get used to that kind of, when you get used to those conveniences, maybe you don't want to live out in the forest, you know. Maybe that's why the City Elves live there. That's just a guess, I don't know for sure. Anyway, we tell the children that the Elven are strong, that we are a proud people, but they hear of these City Elves choose to toil under the human's heavy hand. How do we teach them pride when they know there are others who would allow themselves to be trampled into the dust? So we tell them that these City Elves are to be pitied, that they have given up on their people, given up their heritage. We tell them that some people are so used to being controlled that, when freed, they know not what to do with themselves. They are weak and afraid of the unfamiliar, afraid of our life of wandering. Above all, they are afraid even to hope that one day we may have a home of our own. Gisharel, keeper of Relafaren clan of the Dalish Elves. That's interesting. So he's basically saying, Garishel is saying that he teaches the children that in order to keep them from going into the city and becoming city elves themselves, in order to retain the Dalish, he tells them that they are weak, and that they are afraid, and they are afraid to come out into the forest because they don't understand it. They're not familiar with it, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, how many of you people have lived in the city and then decided, you know what, I want to go live out in the forest anyway, regardless of the niceties of civilization? There are some that do actually decide to live out in the forest and roughneck it, and that's cool. But obviously it kind of makes sense. So Arlathan Part 1. So this is better learning about Arlathan. I'm not exactly sure what Arlathan is, if that's like a city, a region, a map location, or what it is. But okay, so before the ages were named or numbered, our people were glorious and eternal and never changing. Like the great oak tree, they were constant in their traditions, strong in their roots, and ever reaching for the sky. They felt no need to rush when life was endless. They worshipped their gods for months at a time. Decisions came after decades of debate, and an introduction could last for years. My goodness, I would not want to listen to an introduction that lasted years. Wow, so they were basically like timeless people that lived forever, so they had all the time in the world. Well, I'm saying people, but they were elves. From time to time, our ancestors would drift into centuries-long slumber, but this was not death, for we know they wandered to fade in dreams. Okay. Centuries-long slumber. That's crazy. In those ages, our people called all the land Elvenon, which in the old language means place of our people. And at the center of the world stood the great city of Arlathan, a place of knowledge and debate, where the best of the ancient elves would go to trade themselves. Did I skip a sentence? Where the best of the ancient elves would go to trade knowledge, greet old friends, and settle disputes that had gone on for a millennia. But while our ancestors were caught up in the forever cycle of ages, drifting through life at what we would consider an intolerable pace, the world outside the lush forests and ancient trees was changing. The humans first arrived from Par-Valen to the north. Called Shimlin or Quicklings by the ancients, the humans were pitiful creatures whose lives blinked by in an instant. I find that very interesting that they're called Quicklings because of how quick their life goes by in comparison to elves. When they first met the elves, the humans were brash and warlike, quick to anger and quicker to fight, with no patience for the unhurried pace of elven diplomacy. But the humans brought worse things than war with them. Our ancestors proved susceptible to human diseases, and for the first time in history, elves died of natural causes. Oh goodness, so the elves contracted disease from the humans, and for the first time in history they started dying of natural causes. What's more, those elves who spent time bartering and negotiating with humans found themselves aging, tainted by the humans' brash and impatient lives. Many believed that the ancient gods had judged them unworthy of their long lives and cast them down among the Quicklings. Our ancestors came to look upon the humans as parasites, which I understand is similar to the way the humans see our people in the cities. The ancient elves immediately moved to close Elvenon off from the humans, for fear that these Quicklings these quickening effect would crumble the civilization. Wow, totally interesting. So that means that the humans ended up corrupting the long lives of the ancient elves. Maybe so much so, it almost sounds like the humans' quick lives rubbed off on the ancient elves, in a sense. Like, rubbed off on them. And the ancient elves lost their long lives, and they closed off the city to keep the humans away from them, to try to fend off this effect. This is from the Fall of Arlathan as told by Gisharel, keeper of the Relafaren clan of the Dalish Elves. And then part 2. You ask what happened to Arlathan. Sadly, we do not know. Even those of us who keep the ancient lore have no record of what truly happened. What we have are accounts of the days before the fall, and a fable of the whims of the gods. The human world was changing even as the elves slept. Clans and tribes gave way to a powerful empire called Tevinter, which, and for what reason we do not know, moved to conquer Elvenon. Okay, so the human world was changing, and they created an empire called Tevinter. So the human empire is Tevinter. And they moved to conquer Elvenon. When they breached the city of Arlathan, our people feared of disease and loss of immortality, chose to flee rather than fight. With magic, demons, and even dragons at their behest, the Tevinter Imperium marched easily through Arlathan, destroying homes and galleries and amphitheaters that had stood for ages. Our people were corralled as slaves. The human contact quickened their veins until every captured elf turned mortal. The elves called to their ancient gods, but there was no answer. My goodness. So the ancient they called to their ancient gods, but there was no answer. As to why the gods didn't answer, our people left only a legend. Okay? They say that Fenharel, the Dreadwolf and the Lord of Tricksters, approached the ancient gods of good and evil and proposed a truce. The gods of good would remove themselves to heaven, and the lords of evil would exile themselves to the abyss. Neither group ever again to enter the other's lands. But the gods did not know that Fenharel had planned to betray them, and by the time they realized the Dreadwolf's treachery, they were sealed in their respective realms, never again to interact with the little world. It is a fable, to be sure, but those elves who traveled beyond claim that Fenharel still roams the world of dreams, keeping watch over the gods lest they escape from their prisons. Whatever the case, Arlathan has fallen to the very humans our people had once considered mere pests. It is said that the Tevinter Magisters used their great destructive power to force the very ground to swallow Arlathan whole, destroying eons of collective knowledge, culture, and art, the whole of elven lore left only to memory. The fall of Arlathan is told by Gisharel, keeper of the Relafaren clan of the Dalish Elves. That's amazing. Very good lore here. So, basically, the humans took over the city, and it is said that the gods did not answer the prayers of the elves when they were being ransacked of their city Arlathan, because this god named Fenharel, the Dreadwolf, apparently the Dreadwolf had tricked the gods into sealing themselves away in their own realms, with the gods of good sealing themselves into heaven, and the lords of the evil sealing themselves into the abyss. So it's like heaven and hell, right? So the gods were not contained within heaven and hell. Maybe they intermingled, but at some point they were tricked into sealing themselves into the different realms. But somehow this sealing of themselves in the realms kept them in direct contact with the elven race. That is the fable. Anyway, so this is very interesting to understand the elven lore and history and culture of what the elves believe occurred to their people. Very interesting. And we have the Halla here, which is just gorgeous. Wish I could get in there. Can I get in there? Can I go and see them? Wow, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. Could you imagine a god version of this Halla? Wouldn't that be amazing to see a god version? Oh, I can already imagine. That is so awesome. And this here is an old statue that appears to be broken. Ghilan'nain, mother of the Halla. Perfect. This is exactly what I needed right now. Magic and religion. Perfect. Perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. It's weird. It starts at 57. Okay. Ghilan'nain, mother of the Halla. Okay, so this is going to be a good one. Okay, sit back and get you a cup of tea. All right. Or coffee. So they say that Ghilan'nain... Okay, first of all, I'm going to need to pronounce this. Ghilan'nain. 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 Okay. They say Ghilan'nain was one of the people in the days before Arlathan, and the chosen of Anduril, the huntress. She was very beautiful, with her hair of snowy white, and as graceful as a gazelle. She kept always to Anduril's ways, and Anduril favored her above all others. Okay, so processing, that's very dense. So Anduril, the huntress, was apparently one of the greater gods, and Ghilan'nain was chosen by Anduril the huntress and favored by Anduril because she always kept to Anduril's ways. Okay, so one day while hunting in the forest, Ghilan'nain came across a hunter she did not know. At his feet lay a hawk, shot through the heart by an arrow. Ghilan'nain was filled with rage, for the hawk, along with the hare, is an animal much beloved of Anduril. Oh goodness. So the hawk and the hare are animals that are beloved by Anduril, so this upset her. Ghilan'nain demanded that the hunter make an offering to Anduril in exchange for taking the life of one of her creatures. The hunter refused, and Ghilan'nain called upon the goddess to curse him, so that he could never again hunt and kill a living creature. Ghilan'nain's curse took hold, and the hunter found that he was unable to hunt. His prey would dart out of sight, and his arrows would fly astray. Wow. So he became a bad hunter, basically. His friends and family began to mock him for his impotence. For what use is a hunter who cannot hunt? Ashamed, the hunter swore he would find Ghilan'nain and repay her for what she had done to him. He found Ghilan'nain while she was out on a hunt with her sisters, and lured her away from them with lies and false words. He told Ghilan'nain that he had learned his lessons, and begged her to come with him, so she could teach him to make a proper offering to Anduril. Oh no, don't do it, Ghilan'nain. Moved by his plea, Ghilan'nain followed the hunter, and when they were away from all of her sisters, the hunter turned on Ghilan'nain. He blinded her first, and then bound her as one would bind a kill fresh from the hunt. But because he was cursed, the hunter could not kill her. Instead, he left her for dead in the forest. Right, because he's cursed. Now, it's that doesn't really make sense. Like, why couldn't he shove a knife into her heart? I don't know. But something about his curse prevented him from killing her. I mean, it made him a bad hunter, but I mean, bad hunter or not, you should be able to put a knife in something. Especially if it's tied up. Okay, but instead he left her for dead in the forest all tied up. And Ghilan'nain prayed to the gods for help. She prayed to Elgar'nan for vengeance, to Mother Mithal to protect her. But above all, she prayed to Anduril. Anduril sent her hares to Ghilan'nain, and they chewed through the ropes that bound her. But Ghilan'nain was still wounded and blind, and could not find her way home. So Anduril turned her into a beautiful white deer, the first Halla. And Ghilan'nain found her way back to her sisters and led them to the hunter, who was brought to justice. And since that day, the Halla have guided the people and have never led us astray, for they listen to the voice of Ghilan'nain. Wow. Interesting. I mean, I don't want to poke too many holes. I think it's a beautiful story. But if Andruil is so powerful, why didn't she just cure her blindness? Why did she need to turn her into an elk? Or a white deer? You know what? I don't want to question it. But she basically transformed her into a beautiful white deer. Because apparently she needed to change her form in order for her to be able to find her way back home. So she did so, and who was brought to justice. Gotcha. So Halla are guided by Ghilan'nain, and again, I don't... Ghilan'nain. Ghilan'nain. It might be non. When I say C-A-I, I think of A, like Ain. But anyway. Interesting. So the Halla are basically guided by the voice of Ghilan'nain. Interesting. I love to read about that and understand this world. This world is thick with lore, thick with story, and thick with, adventure and depth. So very interesting to hear about the City Elves, elf woman, Ashalle. I assume that if someone is named like Ashalle, then they probably have like more dialogue. Oh, helm, I'll take that for sure. Let's see. Where's the helmet? I look kind of dumb, but you know what? I don't think I... Oh wait. Destroy, unequip, inspect. Oh, okay. That's cool. I didn't even know I could do that. Alright. Now, I'm assuming if it's a named character, then they have some interesting dialogue, so I'll try.
By the creators, it is so good to see you whole and well. I was so worried.
Okay, so this is somebody I know. This is somebody I already know, obviously. Anathara, Ashalle. It's good to see you too.
All that time you were ill, the Keeper didn't know if you were going to live or die. I've been outside the Keeper's tent the whole time. I have never been so relieved as when I heard you would pull through. What happened? Everyone says Tamlin may be dead.
I really appreciate your caring. I appreciate that. And what happened? My goodness. It's really hard to describe. But, they could be right.
That's awful. He's been a good friend to you since you were fledglings. You must be more careful. Your mother and father, may they rest in peace, would be horrified to see you take such risks.
Yeah, well... You know, you've never spoken of my parents much, Ashalle.
What happened to them is a sad tale, and it's in the past. Reopening old wounds benefits no one.
Well, it's true, but don't we Dalish strive to learn of our past?
You've much to do tonight with Tamlin still missing. I will tell you another time.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe another time. So, if there's an cooking pit. So I can interact with that then. Oh god, I'm standing on that. I thought I would... Okay, so it's just markers saying there's something here interesting, but that doesn't guarantee that I'll be able to actually interact with it. There's the Bowmaker's Arabelle, so I'm assuming that's something I need to see. I probably have items that I need to sell. Ilen? Okay, so I guess this would be Ilen's place then, the Bowmaker.
I'm glad you recovered. Once we find Tamlin, we can concentrate on the journey northward. Thank you for the bow, Master Ilen. It is light and sturdy, much better than the one I made last year.
You are more than welcome. My father made it and used it in battle against the Clane tribes.
I will carry it with honor.
Huh. I don't want to just ask for nothing. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not just gonna ask for handouts. But before that, may I see your crafts, Master Ilen?
Of course. Take whatever you need.
Take? Did you just say take? Take whatever I need? Okay, so I'm gonna sell this. Destroy, sell. I don't need this. I'm gonna keep that. I don't need the extra gloves. Oh, I'm keeping that. I guess that just came with the game. Like when I downloaded it, I had this. So I don't really want to sell that yet. I'm not gonna need the Lyrium potion. I don't even know what that is. Chance to reduce movement speed? I'm gonna save that for now just because I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm supposed to sell this. Blue-green stone with a pattern. Okay, so there's no information whatsoever on that. A green stone. I'll just hold on to that for now. Elf fruit. These are crafting items that I may need. Okay, so let's just see, what do you have in terms of weapons? So there's the tier 2 weapon. This is a tier 1. So it's a tier 1 weapon, but it deals more damage. Because I guess it's like a higher rarity. But it's way too expensive. I can't afford something like that yet. I only have 23 silver and 5 bronze. I already have some gloves. I don't think I have boots. Dalish boots. Can't afford it anyway. So, clan shield. I'm not a shield guy. Accessories. Wares. Okay, I'm gonna hold off on this stuff for now. There are traps, and flasks, and extracts, and death root, all of that. I'm sure I can find more of that in time. There's one of the scrolls that I found earlier. Oh, merchants. You have just gained access to your first store. Here you can buy or sell items. Various stores are scattered throughout the world. While the transaction is open, you may... Okay, I already understand that. It's basic stuff. Okay. Well, I think with that, I think there was more to say with him. You know what? I'll click on some of those other dialogues.
Ah, back again?
I remember... Yes, I am back again. It's just that I remember you speaking about a battle your father was in. I was kind of wanting to hear that story.
Then I am proud to tell it. Our clan was one of the first to flee the Dales. When we came to Ferelden, the fiercest of the Shimlin were the barbarians known as the Clane. We didn't wait for them to attack us. Every Dalish clan in Ferelden united to bring the battle to them.
Wow, so we attacked them first.
They were barbarians without honor. They would have slain us without a second thought. The ensuing battle went well for us. That day we carved out our reputation of being the deadliest archers. Our arrows won us the right to wander these woods at will. It was this very bow that my father used that day.
Thank you for the tale, Master Ilen, and especially the bow. I will honor its history.
Wow. So you're just giving your bow to him? That incredible bow? Why would you give away a relic such as this?
We are all the same clan. His hand is as my hand. I have relinquished nothing. It was my father who first spoke of the Vir Tanadal, the 3 ways of the hunter. The first is the Vir Asan, the way of the arrow, to reach for our goal unrelenting. The second is the Vir Borasan, The way of the bow. To bend, but not to break. The last is the Vir Adalen. The way of the wood. We are as ancient as the forests, each tree a part of the greater land. All Dalish are united in this. One day, we shall have a homeland again.
Wow. So that was a really intense bit of lore right there. I don't want to push it. I should go. Thank you for persuading me. I mean, thank you for the lore, the stories that you have shared today.
May the Creators guide your path.
Okay, so that was huge. That was really intense. So what he said is that there's the way of the bow, the way of the arrow, and the way of the wood. And he had words for them, but I don't remember them. They were like Arashel or Aravel or something like that. So the way of the arrow is to like seek and find the target that you're looking for. And then there's the way of the bow, to bend but not break. This means to be able to withstand the pressures of society and the outside world, but don't break. And then there's the way of the wood. We elves are ancient and part of the forest. So, very interesting. That's very important to the Dalish clan, I'm sure. Also, the bit about his father being part of a battle that took place to free us. So let's talk to Merrill. Let's see what Merrill has to say.
The Keeper told me I'm to accompany you back to those caves. As her apprentice, I may see something you missed. But our main objective is to find Tamlin, of course. We must make haste. He may not have much time.
I see. How much of our lore do you know?
Less than I'd like to. I know some of our old magic, as the Keeper does, and I'll know about these relics if I see them. The Keeper isn't sending me to collect anything, however. We're worried about Tamlin.
Yes, that is true. But aren't you worried about getting sick?
A little, but the Keeper cured you. How dangerous could it be? Even if I get sick, finding Tamlin or something valuable will be worth it.
Wow, she's really confident. How much did the Keeper tell you?
Enough to pique my interest and my concern. You can explain the rest on the way.
I see. Do you have any supplies before we head out?
Master Ilen could help you, but do not tarry.
Okay, never mind. Let's go.
You're back. Are you ready to go now?
Yes, I am ready to go. Let's head out.
Then let us make haste while daylight lasts.
Alright, here we go. I am going to end the episode here, and I will see you next time, and good to see you.